Custom white stone countertops are expensive. In this video, I'm going to show you how I saved $1,400 building similar out of white concrete. I'll show you how easy it is to build the forms, mix and pour, and how to hide any creative imperfections, or what some might call mistakes. In the end, you'll have beautiful white custom countertops and a stack of cash left in the bank. Who says you can't have it all? I'm doing precast concrete countertops, so I'm building forms using 3/4 inch melamine. Precast will allow me to build these start to finish in my garage and keep our kitchen undisturbed and clean until install day. By the way, I'm using a track saw, but any of these cuts can be made using an inexpensive circular saw. To help me easily make my cuts, I went ahead and digitally drew up all of my parts in SketchUp. This yellow part is the only one that has a cutout, which is the only cut I have left, so let's do that now. So I went ahead and drew out the cuts I need to make, and I'm gonna see if I can get close enough with my track saw. I cut the form sides on my table saw, and these are short because I'm only making my counters 1 inch thick, which is doable with the concrete that I'm using. And I'll explain why in just a bit during install. To build the forms, I pre-drilled holes in the sides for my screws to prevent any splitting, and then I screwed the sides to the base. I repeated this all the way around until I had a complete form. Here's all 4 forms made up, and after I made each form, I just quickly put a piece of tape on it with measurements so I can easily keep track of what I've done so far. Now that all the forms are built, I'm gonna caulk all of the seams with 100% silicone to make sure all of the seams are watertight. We want to keep that wet mix in that concrete form because losing water compromises the structural integrity of the concrete. But also, oof, what a mess springing a leak would be. All of the concrete products that I'm going to use today are from a company called Concrete Countertop Solutions, and this is the mesh that they sell as a reinforcement for all of the concrete pours. I'm going to go ahead and cut mine to size for each of my forms so we're ready to insert it when we pour. Right before I mix and pour the concrete, I gave each form a good wipe and a vacuum so they're as clean as possible. And now let's mix everything up. I measured out 1 quart of water and poured it into a clean bucket. I'm using a white concrete countertop mix, and I'm adding white color packs to my concrete for extra pigment. The pigment goes in first and gets mixed into the water. And by the way, a great tip that I was taught while mixing concrete is to use ice cold water. The cold temperature gives you a longer working time before the concrete starts to set up. And speaking of tips, I often get comments asking how I learned my DIY skills, whether it's renovating, tackling big construction projects, or even building furniture. The truth is, I'm completely self-taught. I've always had a huge desire to learn new things. Learning is a constant part of my life. That's why I'm genuinely excited to partner with Skillshare for today's video, which is a platform that I've been utilizing for years. You've probably already heard of Skillshare. It's the largest online learning community for creatives, offering thousands of really fun classes on just about anything you can imagine. From interior design and DIY to photography, cooking, business, marketing, sewing, there's something for everyone. Whether you're looking to grow your career or simply explore a new hobby, Skillshare has classes from beginner to advanced. Right now, I'm eyeing a furniture making class about creating a tapered coffee table with the Austin School of Furniture, as well as a SketchUp class on 3D floor plans to prepare for some really big renovation projects that I have coming up. But the class I'm currently diving into is YouTube Success by Marques Brownlee. Even after years of making videos, I'm always eager to improve, whether it's refining my editing or just creating better content for you guys. I really do recommend that you check it out. To help you get started, Skillshare is offering the first 500 of you a free 1-month trial. Totally free. So just click the link in my description and hurry, because these spots always go fast. Okay, now I can start adding a bag of concrete a little at a time, alternating with water while running the mixer. The specific measurements of water are outlined right on the back of the bag. I'm using a corded drill because it provides more consistent power, especially since the drill will be running for a long period. Plus, there's no worry about the battery running out in the middle of mixing. And once mixed, it's ready to immediately pour. I feel like this first pour wasn't nearly wet enough, so I'm gonna add a bit more water for the next pour. I worked the mix all around until it filled in all the space and corners, and once it was filled about halfway up, I added in the fiber mesh for reinforcement. I gently pressed it in just a little, but not too far so it stays in the middle of the form. With the added water, this second pour flowed much better. Looking back though, I wish I had made the mix even wetter. A slightly looser consistency would help release even more air bubbles when I vibrate the forms. Once the form was full, I used a straight board as a screed and I just leveled out the concrete in the form. And then to vibrate, I turned on my reciprocating saw without a blade and then I just moved it all around the edge to help vibrate any bubbles to the surface. This works great, but again, I think it would have worked even better if I would have made the mix just a little bit wetter. I repeated the same steps and filled all 4 of my forms, and then I let the countertops sit to cure for a few days. While curing, I came out a few times a day and I spritzed the concrete with water. Keeping the concrete moist ensures a slower, more even cure, resulting in stronger and more durable countertops, which is definitely what we want. Okay, it's time to take these countertops out of the forms. You can see that they're already starting to pull away from their forms and they're definitely ready. So let's get the forms off and see what they look like. We have a few bubbles or a few holes, but I have a plan to fix that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take the sides of the forms off of this big one, but I'm not gonna just flip it over until I have some help because I don't wanna be stupid. It's heavy and I don't wanna hurt myself, but we can go ahead and take the sides off. Perfect. This pour came out really well, just a few little bubbles on the edge. Okay, I just got the third one out and it also looks really good. Has a few spots, there's some weirdness over here from the silicone, but I can sand that out. So I don't have the big one out yet because I'm gonna need some help getting that out. This one is the only one so far that has some variation in it and I actually kind of like it. I will have to cover some of that up though with a slurry to fix these holes. And these 2 smaller ones came out nearly perfect. So I'm really happy with that. So looking forward to seeing what's under that one. Okay, with the countertops out of their forms, we're moving on to the grinding stage. I have this one flipped upside down, so the bottom is up right now, which is the ugly side. So I want to grind it down so it has a more level bottom, and then we're going to move to the more important side, which is the top. I'll show you that part in just a second. First, I'm going to break off the edges just by hand with this diamond grit sanding block. Okay, now I'm gonna grind the top, which is obviously the more important side. This is just to take the melamine imprint off the middle and the silicone imprint off the sides. And I'm just using an inexpensive polisher that I have on hand for waxing my boat and a 100 grit diamond polishing pad. Okay, the countertops have these little small holes that I need to fill from the air bubbles that didn't pop. And I'm gonna fill them with a product called Counterpatch. This is what Counterpatch is made for. It's a powder, I'm gonna mix it up and I can add some of my white pigment to it so I can color match it to the existing color of my countertops. I've moved this slurry all around, making sure the mixture covered any pinholes that the counter may have. The next day I came back and sanded the dry extra patch off of the counters. I initially tried using an orbital sander, but it turned out to be way too aggressive. So next I switched to a diamond grit sanding block, which was better, but ultimately a drywall sanding block was really the perfect solution. It was gentle and it was effective, it was just right. Once the countertops are sanded and clean, it's finally time to apply a sealer. My local concrete supplier recommended I use this XS327, which is a premium concrete countertop sealer. It's clear, it's scratch resistant, and it's food safe. And it also has a high stain resistance and a heat resistance up to 300 degrees. If you have a concrete sealer you like, I'd love to hear what you recommend down in the comments. I applied 3 coats, and after 24 hours, it was ready for install. This butcher block is headed out, so I cut the caulk lines and unscrewed the brackets holding the tops to the cabinets. And then it's an easy switch out. Thankfully, my form measurements were correct, and you can see how the 1-inch thickness slides right under the existing backsplash. And this is why I made the counters 1 inch thick. They match the thickness of the butcher block, and I don't have to alter any of the existing fixtures. If you were here last year when I did this mini kitchen renovation, you'll remember that I tried to save these butcher block counters, but after living with them, I realized I just don't like them. They're stained, they're warped, they're too dark, and we finally need to break up. So let me introduce you to my new friends, my white concrete countertops. They look so much like more expensive stone. They're durable, watertight, stain resistant, and just like a good friend, they're low maintenance and they really brighten up the room. This big countertop was my favorite to see going in. It's so satisfying to not have that giant diagonal seam anymore, and the white counter really helps to brighten up the entire room. The total cost of this build was $535 for 23 square feet. The quote I got was for 2012, so that's a savings of $1,477. I love the cost, I love the upgrade, and this white concrete gives me ideas for more projects. Check out all of the other renovations I have on my channel, and thanks so much for watching.